don't make tweaks to their working capital the minute there is a war just started, and then like say right now the Middle East that's going on, we really won't go and make a lot of tweaks. We wait to see what the full impact for us to understand where this is heading. Once we have a clear understanding of the direction it's heading, maybe we'll go and make a few tweaks. Embrace technology, because technology is going to make your life a lot simpler.
For the students who are new to finance, how they can start building strong foundation basically in financial planning and analysis. So basically FP&A covers major portion of the forecasting as well.
Correct.
So according to you, what are the typical skills or quality set that students should develop among themselves? What skills does company typically look for, when it comes to hiring freshers basically in FP&A roles? Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode by Imperial School of Banking and Management Studies. Today, we are diving into one of the most dynamic and in-demand career profession, which is financial planning and analysis, commonly known as FP&A. If you are a student, commerce enthusiast, or someone aspiring to build a strong career in finance, this episode is going to be extremely valuable for you. We are honored to have with us an esteemed expert in the field of financial planning and analysis, Mr. Brahmadev sir, who brings rich industry experience with almost more than 2 decades mostly in IT industry. So welcome to the podcast, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
To set the stone for this discussion, I want to ask a very basic question, sir. So my first question to you is, for the students who are new to finance, how they can start building strong foundation basically in financial planning and analysis?
So to build a strong foundation in FP&A, few things will be required. If you're a student, let me put it that way, right? If you're a student who's going to be graduating in a year or two, what I would suggest is pick an industry where you're comfortable with. Pick an industry where you understand the business drivers. Pick an industry which you're passionate about. I mean, these are all good things to have, but I understand also reality is sometimes you don't get these opportunities in those organizations. But first and foremost, what I would suggest is that you're familiar with all things from an industry perspective.
Correct.
What is that industry all about? Get that familiarity, right? Then hone your technical skills. Understand how to read a P&L, your financial statement analysis. Usually there's a class called financial statement analysis.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that you'll need to be looking into. Now, another thing is Excel. Excel is sort of a given right now, so you need to have strong Excel skills. But what will really set you apart is having strong communication. The ability to articulate a situation, the ability to articulate your own candidature in the interviews, those are all things that will set you apart. So if I have to summarize, strong technical knowledge and analytical thinking. When I say technical knowledge, it could be in accounting, it could be understanding the industry, and then of course analytical thinking. That's something that everyone has to build in their own way. And then strong communication. So these are the two things I would work towards, right? From a communication perspective, I would go ahead and make presentations during my MBA. If there's a Toastmasters class, I would enroll for that. Basically, you're not trying to be perfect. You're trying to get familiar with those situations. You will get better and better as and when you face those situations on a regular basis. But put yourself out there to begin with.
Okay.
And then you know what your strengths, your weaknesses are, and start working on that.
Okay. So basically, after entering into the college life, like 11th standard and 12th standard, so accounts is a major subject. So normally the people think the 11th subject, the accounts is not that, the important as such. But this is the strong foundation to build a career like in FP&A analysis. So my second question to you, sir, what are the most important concepts or the subjects that a student should focus on if they want to pursue a career in financial planning and analysis? Right from 11th, 12th, maybe UG, PG. So,
see, with technology and with the availability of information on finance and finance topics, it's, before when, things used to be done in a different way, a good understanding of finance, accounting was a must and should sort of situation. But now more and more, at least in FP&A, we see a lot of engineers being part of FP&A. We're seeing folks from different background being part of FP&A as well. So it helps to know what accounting is. It helps to understand what constitutes a P&L. It helps understand how P&L impacts the balance sheet and the cash flow. It definitely helps. But these are skills that can be fairly acquired fairly quickly, right? I mean, if someone's definitely curious about it, they can learn this in a few months itself, right? And some people are really passionate about this, and I've seen in my own experience that a data analytics engineer who did a P&L review in a few months, right? Of course, he spent a lot of time reading, going through. It all depends on that. So you can take accounting, you can take up commerce, business law, all of that, but at the end of the day, how you bring those concepts into real life and ability to articulate is what matters. So the thing that FP&A is only for commerce graduate or MBA is sort of slowly dying down, or already has, right? We see folks from different backgrounds and different education qualifications. Even after getting into work, I've seen software engineers coming and joining as an FP&A analyst as well. So it helps understanding what P&L is, what balance sheet is, and all that. But those are skills that can be acquired fairly quickly.
And so my next question is linking to the second question. As you said, there are so many other domain students who are entering into this field, especially finance. So, like for example, if they are engineering students and they are entering into maybe finance career, it can be PGDM or it can be MBA level. So, what do you suggest them? How they can bridge the gap, of the finance subjects or maybe accounts, costing, the basics of it, so to abridge with the new current syllabus?
So one of the things, like in my own team, we have a lot of software engineers who've done MBA and now are part of FP&A as well, right? What sets them apart is that they understand the industry, so they're able to bring in some value add there. They've spent considerable amount of time in their MBA days understanding how to evaluate a P&L, what is the implication, what is the impact of that's going to have in a balance sheet, or how it's going to impact cash flow. And they also have spend a lot of time understanding the industry relevant metrics, right? Okay. So that's how they've prepared. But more importantly, financial statement analysis, again, I go back to that. That's something that they'll need to have a strong understanding of and they can pick that up during their MBA days. And once they are into an organization, understanding the industry, understand the industry metrics, drivers, definitely helps. So you're mirroring industry and finance, and then you're talking to a leader or a CFO and articulating those situations will be really useful and helpful.
Okay, how does financial planning and analysis, support decision making within an organization, basically?
In multiple ways, right? I mean, we are a decision support organization, and so every time an organization wants to expand or wants to start a new product or wants to start a business in a new region or wants to cut down something or wants to increase costs, they would like to understand what the implication of that is, right? Yeah. So if I want to start a new product, where am I going to get funded from? Where is that going to happen? How much will we need to launch that product? Once we launch that product, what is it that I can expect from a sales perspective? What will my revenue look like? And if I have to fund it, where do I have to cut it? From where will I get the budget? How well am I going to fund it? So these are all factors that FP&A comes and helps, right? But apart from that, on a regular day-to-day basis, we do month-end reviews, basically telling the organization how they performed in that particular month. We help them in the annual budget, right? So think about annual budget as like the North Star. In FY26 or FY27, I want to be a $1 billion organization. So if I want to be a $1 billion organization, right now, say I'm around 800 or 850 billion, a million or whatever. How do I reach that? Correct. Right? So FP&A will draw the path in terms of, it'll translate those things into a number and it'll tell the management this is how you can think about, reaching that goal. And then every month or every quarter, this evaluation happens. Okay, maybe I was expecting my revenue to increase in North America so much, but it hasn't. But it's increased in Europe, right? So will I see this trend going forward? Why didn't my revenue in North America
Correct.
wasn't. Why didn't I meet those expectations? What should I be doing? So all these things is where FP&A comes and helps. Right. So yeah, these are the ways we help senior leaders and management in taking decisions.
So basically, FP&A covers major portion of the forecasting as well.
Correct.
So according to you, what are the typical skills or quality set that students should develop on themselves for this particular
Again,
domain?
from a forecasting perspective, you need to. It'll be good to understand statistics, regression models, and those things like. It'll be from a forecasting perspective. Also, it'll be good for you to. Like, if I have to make an overarching statement, right? Understanding the business is a must and should for an FP&A person. And if you're going to forecast, you need to understand what the trends are looking
Correct.
like,
Absolutely.
right? You need to understand if there are any seasonality factors that we need to consider, right? Is there any projects or is there any initiatives that's going to be done in the near future that are going to be impact? Right now, we spoke about previously during the panel, we spoke about how geopolitics is impacting some of my input costs because oil is going up. How is that impacting, right? So it is sort of like a prediction that we're doing using data, right? So statistics will help, understanding the business will help, understanding the political situation also will help. So it's not a one silver bullet sort of a thing. There are multiple elements which goes into forecasting, and that's something that an FP&A person needs to be up to date with.
So technically, normally while we are doing forecasting, we normally do it for 5 to 10 years normally. So is this the trend? I mean, the company, the practical aspect of the company really does it for the next 5 years down the line, or it is just for the current year?
The focus is definitely on the current year. Like right now, if my fiscal year ends in March, usually organizations start their planning process in December, right? And their focus is on the very next fiscal year.
Yeah.
That's where we spend a lot of time evaluating what is it that we want to achieve, how we're going to achieve, what we need to achieve it.
Yeah.
All of that is going to be a huge focus. And depending on the organization's size, strength, and all of that, sometimes there is a need for a 3-year plan. I haven't seen many organizations do a 5 and 10 because so many things change and we're
Correct.
living in a dynamic world. If you think about the last 5 years itself, there was COVID, there was AI, now there's
war.
Ukraine war, there is now the Middle East, there is uncertainty there. So if I plan if I'm sitting in 2019, I'm saying 2029, my revenue or my organization is going to be this way, I really don't know because so much has happened, right?
Okay.
So most of the organizations focus heavily on the next fiscal year, and almost more than half of the organizations also focus on a 3-year strat plan, right? So in the next 3 years where it is that the company is going to be.
Okay.
This is basically for the management to get an understanding of where the company is heading and what I should be focusing on. So that's what we prepare a 3-year plan for, right?
Okay. So basically, while forecasting your working capital requirements, so in this uncertainty, so if you have designed first the working capital plan, so do you change again or maybe you do some changes in that?
I'm again, depends on industry to industry. If I look at the IT industry itself, I mean, the fact that rupee is at an all-time low, it could be because you're billing your clients in dollar and you're paying your employees in rupee. So that could add benefit to you. But on the long run, there are other implications also that need to be considered. So from a working capital perspective, if I think about it, I won't change drastically, month on month, quarter on quarter, but definitely make a few tweaks.
Because in certain cases, your raw material cost would change, your labor cost would change.
Correct.
So how does it affect, I mean, the overall, the forecasted structure which you already have?
So we would make provisions for this. There is a scenario analysis that usually be considered that, hey, if this is what it hits, this is what I'm going to be doing. And like we spoke earlier, my output or the impact of a certain situation, I won't necessarily go out and change my price overnight until there is a sustainable increase in my input costs. I really won't go. I'll weather the storm, try to see if I can absorb it. Only if I'm not able to absorb it, and that usually takes quite a bit of time, right?
Yeah.
And that's when we make tweaks to our working capital management. But usually large organizations don't make tweaks to their working capital the minute there's a war just started, and then like say right now the Middle East that's going on, we really won't go and make a lot of tweaks. We wait to see what the full impact for us to understand where this is heading. Once we have a clear understanding of the direction it's heading, maybe we'll go and make a few tweaks.
Okay, so my next question is regarding the student's point of view. So, what skills does company typically look for? When it comes to hiring freshers, basically in FP&A roles.
See, hiring freshers, I'll put it at a student level. I'm talking to them. First and foremost, your resume is your marketing tool.
Correct.
Right? So make sure you've spent enough amount of time on your resume. You're very familiar with the resume. Everything that's there on the resume is relevant and correct, right? And also keep in mind that especially MBA freshers and all of that, if they have a 4-page resume or a 5-page resume, it really doesn't make sense, right? So we also know that, you've been studying most of your life. You don't have a lot of corporate experience. So avoid lengthy resumes, right?
Okay.
So that's one thing I would say. Then if you're targeting a particular company, or if you've got an interview for a particular company, research the company thoroughly. Don't just say, okay, this is the revenue, this is where the headquarters is, this is how the number of people are. Try to build a good understanding of the organization and the industry as well, because that will reflect. And more importantly, on your resume, whatever you've mentioned, you should be able to articulate it really well, right? So those are things that I look for when I'm interviewing a candidate. But to prepare for like an FP&A world, like I said, it's the same thing. Having a good analytical skills, strong Excel skills, strong communication. Because at the end of the day, you're going to be talking to a lot of people. You're going to be, translating numbers to a story, and you're going to be conveying that to senior leaders who might or might not have finance background. So it's important to have strong communications as well. So these are areas where I would
mostly focus on.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So next question, what advice would you like to give to students to successfully transition from classroom learning to the corporate roles in FP&A?
Yeah, especially, and this is for MBA students, I would say, is that, when you're doing your projects and your case studies, most of the information is handed to you, right? You are only focusing on the tools, on the analysis. But in real life, a lot of time is spent on getting the data itself, validating whether the data is correct. And the analysis that you do won't take a lot of time. Getting the right data from the right sources at the right time is what is going to take a lot of time, right? Another thing that I would tell MBAs is that keep your expectations grounded, in the sense that, right after you finish your MBA, you're not going to be called into taking decisions, or, more or less you're going to be involved in beginner level sort of a thing, right? Because you also need to understand where the data is, how the company is, what the company is, all. You also need to get that thing. So be it grounded and be like a sponge where you're going to absorb everything, right? Learn. The first year or two, I would focus on learning, honing my skills, understanding my own self. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? If I have certain weaknesses, what should I do to overcome them? How can I play my strengths to make sure that I have a successful career? So these are the things I would evaluate. I don't expect, when we hire an MBA person, I don't expect him or her to come and solve my problems overnight.
Absolutely.
Right? I expect them to understand. I expect them to spend time knowing the company, knowing the organization, knowing our processes. All of those is what I'm expecting, right? After 3 or 4 or 5 months, I'm expecting them to, start delivering in terms of the BAU, the business as usual sort of work. After a year or two, I would expect them to sort of, hey, you know what? Certain enhancements, certain thoughts. Can we do it this way? Can we, look at a particular analysis this way? Those things is what I would expect. But then during the first initial years, focus on understanding the organization, understanding the processes, be in the learning mode. Just because you've done your MBA doesn't mean your learning mode is done. Be in your learning mode for at least a good solid 2 years. And then maybe you can lower it down, but the learning never stops.
So basically, you should be a lifelong learner. Then only
that is a given, right? That is a given. But just how much of learning is what it will be.
Correct.
So I would say continue your learning more for the next year or two.
Okay.
Of course, you need to contribute to the organization. Otherwise, they won't They're paying you a salary, so you need to contribute, but keep your learning mode on for the first couple of years as well.
Okay, so basically with a rapid change in technology and constantly in a dynamic world of innovation, so there are a lot of tools coming in which are replacing the manual work in accounts and other roles as well in finance specifically. So according to you, what are the what can I say, the courses, I mean the skills, like for example it can be R, Python, it can be Power BI. So what the additional students to develop them in them?
See, technology is so vast right now. I won't be prescriptive in saying that use this technology, learn that technology. So right now, one thing I can tell you is throughout my career, Excel has been my constant, right?
Okay.
Excel has always been there. So definitely know Excel. A lot of the Microsoft related products in terms of Power BI and all of that, a lot of the organizations have. So that's something that I would recommend students to understand Power BI, Power Query. A lot of organizations are looking at dashboarding, which Power BI helps. They're also looking at Tableau and other the tools. But these are tools that you can learn on the job as well.
Yeah.
You need to put in, but more importantly, the mindset should be, again, the learning thing stays relevant here. Embrace technology, because technology is going to make your life a lot simpler. It's going to make your work a lot easier. So don't be averse to technology. Don't consider it as a threat. Embrace it, and you will see the results will happen over the years as and when you do that.
As we come to the end of this insightful conversation, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude for sharing such valuable perspectives and practical insights from your rich experience, sir. So your views on financial planning, your views on forecasting, your views on developing your necessary skill set or the mindset is really will help the students to prosper in their career. On behalf of Imperial School of Banking and Management Studies, I thank you once again for taking the time to guide and inspire our learners. To all our listeners, we hope this session has provided you with clarity, direction, and motivation to build a strong career in the finance, especially FP&A. Thank you for tuning in. Keep learning, keep growing, and we look forward to seeing you in our upcoming next podcast.